Hey, this is Lucas Meek, author of the book The Efficient Hustle. You're listening to the multiple award-winning podcast, The Business Side of Music, with your host and Rock Gods Hall of Fame member, Bob Bender.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
This one's been a long time coming, about a year.
Yeah?
Yeah, it seems like it. I met Brian Bakke at a Music Biz conference last year.
Yeah, exactly.
2023. Yeah. And we got to know each other a little bit, and we kept trying to set up times to have him on the show, and between his schedule and mine, we couldn't make it work. But we've got you in the hot seat today, so we're glad about that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Brian Bakke is currently the Director of Business Development for Orpheum, a music technology company and a global leader in digital rights management. That is one of the hot button topics these days. He spearheads strategic partnerships, fosters relationships with platforms, labels, and publishers to empower the rights holders to generate record-breaking value from their catalogs, which is oh so important these days. Brian has over a decade of experience in the music and entertainment industry. He began his career as the Director of Marketing for the University of Colorado Boulder's entertainment company, Program Council. Seeking to expand into a more direct relationship to artists, Brian transitioned to Creative Artist Agency, CAA, in Los Angeles, where he was an assistant in the touring marketing department. During his time there, he specialized in marketing arena-sized tours. That had to have been exciting in itself.
Oh, it was amazing.
From there, Brian joined the team at Orpheum, where he has been for the past 4 years. In his position at Orpheum, Brian has been able to work with some of the most prominent music rights holders in the world to drive the value of their repertoire through technology. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Yeah, great to be here with you.
It is so good to have you. And we mentioned Music Biz. I actually got to set foot in the conference for a little bit this morning. It seems like it's just as chaotic and as busy as usual.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's full of people. I mean, this is really the kind of pinnacle of the music business for, I would say, definitely in the United States, but certainly a lot of international people are now coming to this, as the topics expand from not just, distributors and labels and publishers. Now it's technology and new companies coming into the space. So there's a lot of younger companies now entering this and offering their services. So it's really interesting just to see, it's going beyond kind of the old school idea of the music industry into this new age. So yeah, it's really exciting.
We've actually had a couple of guests on the show this week that have been attending Music Biz from overseas. Mm-hmm. One of them was from Israel and the other one was from Paris. And you're right. And of course, I'm old school. And I say this a lot. I'm an analog guy in a digital world. I used to attend Music Biz back in the day when it was really designed for the record labels and the distributors and the retailers. And the business has just expanded so much. The industry has expanded so much since then. So with that being said, let's talk about your company and what it's all about.
Yeah. So Orpheum's been around for about 8 years now. And originally, Orpheum started as almost an alternative to SoundCloud. Its very early inception, it was essentially a streaming platform which allowed independent artists to then monetize on YouTube because we had to deal with YouTube at the time. Since then, we've now just started, we've switched into working with enterprise rights holders only. So the record labels, the publishers, production music companies, distributors. And so basically anybody that owns copyright is now who we work with primarily. Last year, January, Orpheum acquired a company out of London called Soundmouse, which is the kind of industry standard for cue sheet reporting. So now there's essentially two sides to Orpheum. There's the UGC monetization side, which is the side that I work on. And then there's the music cue sheet reporting side, which is the Soundmouse side of the business as well.
Let's talk about cue sheet reporting. Exactly what is that?
So yeah, cue sheet reporting is essentially where a production or a TV show of film essentially by compliance needs to report on what songs are being used in a TV show, linear broadcast, any of those types of media, and then those get sent out to the societies to collect on payment.
So it's part of the sync world.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Orpheum and you're celebrating around your 8th birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
Thereabouts. And obviously the direction you were heading in the very beginning has changed dramatically.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And the business continues to grow. Mm-hmm. So I really think, especially companies such as yours, it's really a living, breathing, metamorphic type of entity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so as we've kind of seen the expansion of other UGC platforms, primarily with the emergence of TikTok over the last, several years as coming into being a key UGC platform, we're now seeing a lot of that kind of, music usage, certainly, as we just saw with Universal and their licensing deal with TikTok, that kind of explosion of the creator economy. And what does that really mean for rights holders and claiming on royalties of this usage? Basically, from when we started to where we're at now, we've developed fingerprinting technology to identify those usages on UGC platforms. We've developed matching software for publishers to match their compositions to sound recordings on UGC platforms as well. And then for our production music clients, production music meaning folks who own both the composition and the sound recording 100% on both sides. We have an automated licensing tool as well, so that facilitates sync licensing on UGC platforms.
Explain to me UGC. What is that exactly?
So user-generated content.
Okay.
Essentially, so when you think of YouTube, when you think of TikTok, all those videos are user-generated content. So this is content that, you or I can upload with, a single click. We can choose a song on TikTok, make a video and then upload it to the platform. Same with YouTube. You can upload a video and then essentially it's out there in the world for anybody to watch. So that UGC is user-generated content. So in our world at Orpheum, user-generated content is what we claim on for the rights holders because most of the content that lives on these platforms is unlicensed usage of music if there's music in the video.
Correct.
Which, quite a bit of content contains music. And if they don't have the proper license to use in that video, then our company will essentially come in and make sure that the rights holders are generating the revenue derived from that video.
How do you go about determining, I'm that individual who's uploading content to YouTube or to TikTok or whatever that platform is? There's so much of it. I mean, it has to be hundreds of thousands a day, at least tens of thousands.
It's in the millions. I mean, it's a sea of content that lives out there.
How do you determine who owns what just by that video piece that is on YouTube? Yeah,
so we determine on the back end of the rights holder. So it all has to do with metadata. Okay, so we handle
it. All has to do.
It's all metadata.
All metadata.
It's all metadata, and so I think that's really an important part of our discussion today as well, is talking about metadata, because when a claim is made on a video, let's say there's a Beyonce song used in a video, YouTube is going to claim that, or Orpheum is going to claim that, and essentially YouTube needs to know who to pay that out to, right? You know, if there's no ownership of the song in the metadata, it's going to sit in the, famous black box somewhere in the, in YouTube's bank account or whoever's bank account.
It's in some rabbit hole somewhere.
It's somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, the purpose of Orpheum is to make sure that artists and songwriters are getting paid the money that they are owed. We're a mission-driven company to make sure that the artists, songwriters, people who own the copyright are the ones making this money, and making sure that we're claiming on that for them.
Still, when we talk about that dollar amount that the content holder, the creator, it's just not that much yet, is it? I mean, it really deals in a volume business.
It is, yeah. And you have people in partner programs for these, platforms like YouTube Partner Program, et cetera. And, you can make money certainly off of these platforms as a creator. That is why, there are a lot of creators that, really have a big business on these platforms, and they do well for themselves. I would say a vast majority of people, aren't uploading to UGC platforms in the hopes of making, a living off of it, if you know what I mean.
And obviously, it's still a growing industry. And we had someone on the show yesterday, I think they might have been with Deezer, and we talk about it as it's still being the wild, wild west. And I guess it would be convenient to say that rules and guidelines still really aren't in place, and everybody's just really trying to grab a piece of the pie and figure out to make it work. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right in some respects. In other ways, it's actually evolved really well in other ways. So in some ways, the Wild West, yes. I mean, when you see the amount of content that is uploaded to these platforms every day, it's unbelievable. It's an astounding amount of content that gets uploaded. So that in that respect, yeah, it is almost the Wild West. In other ways, Orpheum was created to solve these problems. We are a tech company that does, these digital claiming, these digital rights management to solve these problems, because, we recognize that rights holders, artists, and songwriters are missing out on hundreds of millions of dollars of royalties that should be paid out. And we've found through our claiming, through our technology, which, was developed to, kind of stop it from being the Wild West, has found that level of money for our clients. And so, when you're dealing with metadata and sound recording assets and compositions and whatnot, specifically, let's just take this on YouTube, cleaning that up in bulk and dealing with these sort of conflicts in bulk takes a lot of time. It's a lot of manual effort. But when you supplement that with proprietary technology and machine learning technology, which is what we've done, you see a staggering amount of results that come from that, really, in terms of, revenue, black box revenue, claims, data that we get from that as well. So it's kind of this bigger picture of what technology is supposed to do, because manually you can't do it. That's why it was kind of the Wild West for so long, because nobody had really developed technology to fix these problems. And then we started developing this technology to fix these problems. And now we see the results of that, because, like you say, a team of 15 people at a label certainly cannot do this by themselves. It's an industry problem.
We're going to take a break, get a word in for a couple of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Brian Bakke, who is the Director of Business Development at Orpheum.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Branding. What is it really? It goes by many names: marketing, licensing, and image. When in reality, It's 7 key branding formulas that all need to harmonize perfectly. Mess up just one formula and you have compromised the whole brand build. Dead Horse Branding facilitates all 7 formulas under one roof, building, promoting, and marketing all brands at all different stages of their level. We are a marketing team's dream, and we were built to service talent, artist managers, record labels, independent artists, iconic brands, legacy estates, and startups. Rooted in music and seated across other industries like fashion, various talent, hospitality, authors, interior designers, lifestyle brands, and corporate entities. The 7 branding formulas do not discriminate. 7 branding formulas, all in one swift movement. Sick of beating that dead horse? Come to Dead Horse. Please visit us at deadhorsebranding.com or send us an email to info@deadhorsebranding.com.
As a musician, you have a dream. That vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is a part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about independence coupled with committed benevolent interest, which means that they can represent your client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products. It's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact John Adams at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309 for more information.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio with Brian Bakke, who is the Director of Business Development at Orpheum, which is a company that's been around for about 8 years. I got to know them about a year ago. One question I have is, where are we seeing the next generation of Orpheum products? And I mean, there are so many social media platforms.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that at this point in the game, we're not done. We're gonna be seeing so many other things transpiring. Where is that next generation at? Is it there yet, or are we still finding it?
Yeah, no, I mean, really, the next generation for the side that I work on, which is primarily the rights holders, labels, publishers, etc. We're looking to break more into that TikTok area now. So
let me ask you, because the government here in the United States has been wanting to compress or squash TikTok. Mm-hmm. Is that a concern of your company at this point?
That's a great question. I wish I had a better understanding of what the implications of that for us would be.
I think we all do.
I mean, that's kind of the $1 million question right now. I mean, for me in my position, it's hard to say. Obviously, if the United States government forced a sale of TikTok to a U.S. company, I don't think that there would be a large implication for us, because a U.S. company would still own it and the app would still cease, or would exist in its current form with music being used on it. The good thing about Orpheum is that we are a music tech company, so we go where the music is. So as long as there is music on a platform that is, needs to be claimed on, that royalties need to be paid out on, we can still exist. So we aren't, we're not like an ad agency. We're not dealing in that type of world. We are specifically here to make sure that the rights holders, the artists, songwriters, et cetera, are getting paid out from these platforms. So that's really the core purpose. So, as long as TikTok exists in general, we will be there to make sure that we can, claim on those rights and those royalties.
You mentioned TikTok and you have brought up YouTube. Are there other platforms that Orpheum is looking at this point, or are there other derivatives out there of revenue streams?
It gets a little tricky. The answer is yes and no. YouTube, because it is an ad-driven platform, it's not blanket license deals. It's not. So we can collect on that usage. We can claim on that usage, whereas other platforms generally have blanket license deals with the rights holders. So there's really not much for us to collect on. It doesn't matter how much additional claiming we do on content. The same amount of money will be paid to that rights owner. So as a business function, we need to be able to take a cut of what we find. And if there's nothing for us to claim on in terms of revenue, from a business perspective, there's not really a whole reason for us to be on those platforms. Now, as things evolve and things change, I'm hopeful that a number of these other platforms will kind of, update the, CMS system so that allows companies like Orpheum to do proper management of rights on the back end.
When we talk about that proper management of rights, have you seen much pushback from companies such as TikTok, et cetera?
It's hard for me to say, really. I don't want to say there's been pushback, but I think it's still.
Are they making your job easier these days than it used to be?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Sure.
For certain reasons, I think they have a fantastic music team there that are really involved with the rights owners, and they're very much in the space of making sure that their music lives on those platforms. They want to make it easier for creators to use the music on their platforms, and for us, we want to just make sure that, we're able to still continue to collect on unfound usage of, and in this world of manipulated audios, that's really an interesting topic for what we're talking about today. When you hear audio on TikTok or YouTube that has been sped up or slowed down or remixed in any way, what we've found is that when there's any sort of manipulation of audio, it's really hard for fingerprinting systems to pick that up. By way of Orpheum technology, we've been able to assist in making those claims happen on the sound recording level to make sure that the rights owners aren't missing out on the claims that need to be placed and the revenue to be placed on manipulated audios like that.
Working relationships with record labels and publishing houses, and I bring that up because I'm a former record label guy myself. And I'll just say it. The record companies have been a little slow getting to the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Are they finally catching up and understanding the technology? I would think it would make their world a whole lot easier too.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. It's definitely on the UGC front. Record labels certainly want to be on more of the cutting edge of technology with this stuff. If you said 15 years ago, the answer would have been no, because really the emergence of YouTube and kind of this, like you said, wild west of understanding, this, most people that I talk to at labels or production music companies or publishers say this was passive income. They didn't, they just said, all right, we can make a few extra bucks on YouTube. Now on YouTube and other UGC platforms, this is like a major line item for them for revenue. You can generate serious money from these platforms. And so now the attention is definitely shifting from this is just passive income, like, if we get it, we get it, whatever, to we need this income. This is a critical piece of, our rights owners, our writers, our artists' income. As we see this kind of boom of the creator economy and everybody using music on UGC platforms now, that number just keeps going up and up and up and up.
In fact, I noticed in some show notes where you typically have seen a 56% increase in revenue when the clients switch over to Orpheum. What's driving that?
Yeah, so that's really the success of the technology that we've built. We were just talking about the manual effort of trying to do all this in-house. If you're on a digital team at a label, and your job is to find content that's being used on UGC platforms, you'll be searching for days, weeks, and months to find that content that's using your song in a video somewhere and like starting to generate revenue. The reason why we've had so much success with our clients is because of the fingerprinting technology that we've built. Essentially, this stuff works in conjunction with the fingerprinting systems of these platforms. And so we're able to then collect and find in large amounts of quantity where things haven't been claimed on properly, and then we'll go in and make sure that it's claimed on. So that's why we're seeing so much success with the technology that we've built.
The fingerprinting technology, is that equivalent to what we had ISRC codes back in the days, or is this so much farther advanced?
This is going to be a little bit further advanced than that. So it is using an element of the metadata that we are supplied by our labels and publishers, certainly. But then we actually will create a fingerprint of the song, of the MP3 or WAV file that we receive to make sure that it's then getting picked up.
Are you using the entire song or just bits of it?
Yep. No, it'll be the file that we receive.
Yeah. So that way it and I would assume that also makes it maybe a little more difficult to pirate.
Pirate in the sense...
Well, somebody claiming it as their own work when it's not.
So that's another facet of which we work in as well. So specifically when we're talking about YouTube, when somebody, let's say we represent a label and they have the right to a song, and then somebody else uploads that song and they say, no, this is actually our song. What happens is it will create a reference overlap. And in the back end of our system, or in the back end of the YouTube CMS system, we can actually see that. So we'll be able to say, actually, this is our reference. We can assert ownership over this song. And usually everybody in the space plays nice and they say, this was actually a mistake. Sorry. And then we'll claim the ownership of it. So there's a kind of a mutual understanding of everybody in the kind of the YouTube UGC space of rights ownership, etc. Because it's only certain players that are allowed into there. It's not you can't just sign up for it as an individual person.
It's not a free for all.
No, it's definitely not a free for all. And in fact, they a lot of these platforms police it quite strictly. They don't want abuse in the back end of their system. Because then it just messes it up for everybody.
It makes their work so much harder.
So much harder. It's so much harder. And it really doesn't benefit anybody to be the naughty player in the space, to be honest with you. It just doesn't.
It's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah.
We're going to take another break, get another word in for a couple more of our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Brian Bucky.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Mark Allen Barnett, singer, songwriter, creative coach, and mentor. Are you an artist or songwriter, or a family member or friend of someone who is? Are you trying to find your way through the often confusing world of today's music business? I'm here to help. Over the past 40 years, I've written and recorded hit songs, have had more than my share of live performances, and have seen the ups and downs of the music industry and what Music City, also known as Nashville, has to offer. I'm here to share that information with you. The Mark Allen Barnett Songwriting Tours of Nashville are a one-day to multi-day private interactive workshops developed to help you discover your best approach to songwriting, performing in front of a live audience, along with the correct way to network within the music industry. Our workshops are based around what you need to know. While in Nashville, you get an insight from behind the scenes, learn about the history of Music City, separate fact from fiction, and give yourself or a loved one the time of your life. This workshop makes the perfect gift for someone you love who wants to get their foot in the door of the music business the right way. For more information, go to www.markallenbarnett.com or www.musicchoosesyou.com. Remember, you don't choose music. Music chooses you.
When you have a Korg synth at your fingertips, the possibilities are endless. Be it digital, analog modeling, altered FM, wave sequencing, or the multi-engine synth, Korg gives you easy access to a variety of features to help you get the perfect sounds quickly. Whether you're a professional musician or just starting out, Korg truly has a synthesizer to help you express yourself. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products to create new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here with Brian Bakke. You have been with the company now for how many years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah.
And I'm assuming that it has been a very positive thing for you?
It has. It's been a really amazing experience to join. You always kind of hear about join the startup.
Yeah.
And then that experience. And, this position kind of just fell into my lap. And it's been amazing to work at this kind of booming music tech company. When I started, we had about maybe 150 employees, and now we have over 700 employees, offices globally. We work with nearly all of the majors on both sides, a long list of production music companies, indies, distributors. So it's been really amazing to see the growth, and not just the growth, but the results and the impact that the company has. When you have a mission of making sure that artists, songwriters are paid their fair share, it's really, really great to see that impact happening in real time.
That transition for you from being really kind of the specialist in arena-sized tours with CAA to this, that's a bit of a transition in itself.
It was. My whole background has been in live. So I was a director of marketing for a promoter for about 3.5 years. And then I switched over to, again, on the touring side, tour marketing specifically. And so my knowledge base was live and shows. I was going to shows all the time. And that was my life. And like I said, this position actually kind of fell into my lap. And I really didn't know much about rights, record label, publishing. Like, I was very, very elementary when I first joined.
Well, because it wasn't your world.
It wasn't my world at all. And over the last 4 years, I have gotten to know so many amazing people in the rights holder world. And I've learned so much just, by attending these conferences over the years and meeting people and learning from so many people internally at Orpheum. Many of our executive team are ex-Universal Music Group executives. So I've really gotten to just learn from them and understand how this kind of world shakes out in even more kind of specifically on these UGC platforms, because that's the world we live in. It's UGC platform claiming and revenue and cleaning up conflicts and disputes and metadata. So it's kind of this specific world within the the label and publisher world that really not that many people know that much about. So it's been great to kind of come at this, learn, and then be the specialist and expert within this extremely fast-growing, sector of the music industry, which is very, very important, like I said, for, the revenues of the rights holders.
Plus, honestly, I would assume you got out of the live touring end of things at the right time.
Yep.
Because when the pandemic hit, it just literally shut everything down.
That the timing of that, I actually got my job at Orpheum. I started March 30th of 2020, and I left my job at CA in the middle of February 2020. About 2 weeks later, CA basically shut down. It was completely shut down because COVID had happened, and I switched into tech industry quite at a convenient time for myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had someone watching over you.
It's funny you say that. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Well, it's good to have people like you on the show because we always learn something new.
Yeah.
And I think what Orpheum is doing is really great. And we got to get you back maybe next year.
Yeah, next year we'll make it an annual thing.
Yeah, we'll have something else to talk about,
Exactly, I'm sure.
Here's a shout out to our loyal listeners. Without all of you, we wouldn't be one of the most listened to music industry interview podcasts. And if you think that's easy to read, it's not. Including achieving #1 status in many countries around the world. according to the grand kahuna themselves, Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our show, please check out our Facebook page at the Business Side of Music Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and definitely, please hit the like button. While you're at it, go to our page on YouTube and click on the Business Side of Music Podcast to subscribe. You can check out our video webcasts there and get to see me and some of our guests, including Brian here in the studio. Last but not least, check out and follow us on X, what we used to call Twitter, at Biz Music Podcast. That's B-I-Z Music Podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. It's great to be here with you.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.